Today on the UOFanatic podcast, we will be covering all the latest news. With so much Halloween Horror Nights news in the past 2 weeks, it's plenty for us to chew on, so let's dive right in.
Hello? This is Jonah Jameson. Roger, over. Is this thing on?
My name is Angus, and I am a UOFanatic. Welcome to the show. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review on your platform of choice by searching UOFanatic, also on YouTube. Follow along and continue the conversation at UOFanaticPod on Twitter as well. As of June 29th, 2026, Comcast has announced its intention to separate into two independent publicly traded companies through a tax-free spinoff of NBCUniversal and Sky. The split carves the company in two: a media and entertainment company under the NBCUniversal name, and the original Comcast keeping the broadband and wireless side, Xfinity Wireless, Comcast Business, etc. Crucially for us, the standalone NBCUniversal will include its Universal theme parks along with its networks like NBC and Sky. So Universal destinations and experiences, that's Orlando, Hollywood, Japan, Singapore, Beijing, the new Texas Kids Park, and the planned UK Park, all move under the new independent NBCUniversal, sitting alongside Universal Pictures, DreamWorks, Illumination, Peacock, Bravo, and Sky. The separation is expected to be completed in about a year, and it still needs final approval from Comcast's board and is subject to regulatory approvals as well. So nothing is instant. This will play out over roughly the next 12 months. Mike Cavanaugh, Comcast's current co-CEO, will run the new NBCUniversal, while Comcast will be led by the returning Michael Angelakis, a former chief financial officer. Brian Roberts, Comcast chairman, will continue to be actively involved in the leadership of both companies. Comcast expects to retain a stake of up to 19.9% in NBCUniversal for as much as a year after the spinoff is completed. The honest answer is the immediate impact is basically nothing. For guests planning vacations to Universal destinations, the announcement is not expected to bring immediate changes. The parks keep operating exactly as they are. The timing is notable, coming right after the opening of Epic Universe in Orlando, one of the largest investments in Universal's history. The theme parks are no longer a division buried inside a giant cable and broadband conglomerate. They're now part of a focused media company where Universal Destinations and Experiences is, as Comcast itself put it, the growing theme parks division anchoring the whole business. Universal Parks are now a core pillar of a leaner, entertainment-focused company rather than a side bet next to internet service. Comcast has poured serious money into the parks recently, more than $10 billion into U.S. destinations from 2018 to 2024, plus Epic Universe. And a dedicated media company has every reason to keep that momentum going with the Texas Kids Park, the year-round Las Vegas Horror Nights concept, and the 2031 UK Park all in the pipeline. Analysts are openly framing the spun-off NBCUniversal as a possible acquisition target. CNN noted the new content company will be well-positioned for deep-pocketed buyers, and a New Street Research analyst said that spinning off NBCUniversal and Sky positions things so that any of the media assets out there are fair game. So the longer-term question for park fans is who ultimately ends up owning Universal and whether a future owner is as willing to spend big on new attractions, lands, and parks. Over in City Walk, we finally have the spike at Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift has been completed and looks incredible. I still have a couple months before I see it firsthand, but really looking forward to approaching City Walk for that first time and just seeing it there. And with that, let's sound the horn. All right, we got quite a few announcements since the last episode, so we absolutely have to talk about it. On June 24th, Cinema Blend posted an article written by Kara Al-Mohammed after interviewing Laura Souls, Assistant Director of Entertainment Creative Development. The piece confirms Madlands Caged Cannibals is one of our original houses this year at the event. Here are the statements from Laura that I found interesting in the article that can highlight some of what we can expect from the house. This idea came out of a brainstorm week we do every year, where we have scenic designers, characters designers, and show directors who all come to the table with every idea they can think of. No idea is a bad idea. Last April, we had that meeting, and one of our newer scenic designers had the idea for this post apocalyptic zoo that's infested by this tribe of cannibals in a world where animals are extinct. Humans are cannibals, and they take on the traits of the animals that once lived in this post apocalyptic zoo. And we just said, this is a home run. It's a bloody house. It's one of our bloodiest this year. The cannibals are coming at guests strongly. They're killing machines, and every person that goes into this house is their prey. When guests enter Madlands, they'll be transported to a fictional dystopian world where a tribe of cannibals take on the traits of zoo animals when hunting their prey. And guys, we are the prey. Per Sols, the tribe of cannibals we'll meet in Madland have been inspired with what they imagine zoo animals to be like. But since animals have been gone extinct, they're only operating on an idea. It's also apparently one of the more hardcore houses this year, which means it's going to be one people are going to be talking about. Sol said, we think this house is going to be one of the most aggressive in the event. I think this one is going to be intense, very bloody, very in your face, very intense. These are tribes of cannibals. They just need to eat, and you are their food. Sol's also said she's really proud of this one from a production point of view, pointing out the scenic aesthetic of it. She encourages fans to go at a slow but steady pace through the house, but I just know this one is really going to trigger some serious fears. You know, being completely honest, if I had to pick one house that sounds like it might be a miss for me, it would probably be this one. On paper, it sounds pretty cool to point out that they are behaving like animals they've never actually seen, and it sounds pretty cool, but in practice, will it be? Or will they just look like a bad take on a lion or an elephant or whatever animal the tribe is based on? I always hope I'm wrong when I'm thinking a house might be a flop, but if there is one, this is where I put my money. On June 25th, Game Rant posted an interview with Matthew Flood, show director of the announced Cybergoria house. Here are some of the highlights as shared by Matthew. Although you might not need to know the story behind a house to appreciate it, each one has a fleshed out narrative driving its design. In Cybergoria's case, that story involves a corporation called Immortal Bionic Intelligent Systems that sought to offer its customers immortality. Of course, that dream of immortality required some technological advancements, so Immortal put its customers through a cryo-freezing process to preserve them until that tech caught up with the rest of the world. As these things typically go, Immortal offers both a standard and a cost-efficient option, with the cost-efficient version putting humans in freezer bags while they sleep and wait. Unfortunately, Immortal could never deliver on its promise, but its intelligent facility tried to make do with its resources. That means combining human parts with robot parts to try to keep the living tissue going. Yeah, it's going to be pretty gross. For guests of Cybergoria, the house will take you through the freezing process into that disturbing future where man and machine have melded, and even outside the facility to see what's become of the world. When Gamerant asked Flood what this particular house offers that they haven't done before, he shared a lot of interesting details that went into the design of Cybergoria. This one is so exciting for a couple of reasons. I talked about the facility being really fully integrated and kind of alive. Our team is getting better and better, and the amount of integration of audio, lights, and how the characters are being presented is at a next level. It's extremely exciting to see how we can bring an entire room to life. So everything is structured in a way that heightens the scares exponentially more than we've done in a lot of our stuff in the past. I'm speaking in general, but if you walked through our Insidious house a couple years back, it was received as a very scary house, and we're applying the same kind of thinking to this one. It becomes both a very unsettling house from the subject matter, but then it also really aggressive and highly integrated. With any house at HHN, or even the scare zones, the goal is to offer guests a scary experience. It's right there in the name. But for Flood and the team, they want to do more than just create the scariest house of the night. They want people to feel connected to the events that are happening, which means integrating storytelling through the house and even the queue. He even acknowledges that houses can be very soundbite driven, something he calls a secret to the trade, where you tease what is going to happen later in the house, which makes it more intimidating for the average guest. Even so, there will be limits to how far the creators are willing to go despite promising gore. A haunted house is supposed to be scary, and that I went through that. I loved getting scared. It was awesome. We use gore because it throws you off a little bit. And yes, we use all sorts of cool lighting techniques and audio techniques, but the goal is to make a cool event that people want to come back to over and over again. When they walk out, they're high-fiving their friends because they made it through, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you screamed so much. That was awesome." I think that if we were ever to try really hard to make some massive, go so far as to really cause them to be shocking in a unsettling, upsetting way that would be, maybe we need to look at it again. When asked about what techniques guests can expect to see in Cybergoria, he called out two details. One is a set of well-designed mirror elements that he says enhance the space in a way that becomes both confusing and large. In addition, there is a character that, while it's a small element throughout the house, Flood is curious to see if guests latch onto it, and he thinks will be a cool extra element. I will say it again, it's the impossible event. The only thing that makes it work is a magical recipe of everyone trusting each other. And when I work with someone and they're going to their computer to sit down and knock out their piece of it, I know how they work. I've worked with them for dozens of years, so has everyone else on my team. We've been doing this for so long that it's the only reason we're able to accomplish what we do is because there's so much trust and collaboration that has been built up. Even when somebody new comes in, we just have to say, listen, you're coming into the flow. This is going to happen, and it's going to feel like it's coming too fast, but let's just keep going. I don't think it could be done in any other way. The timelines are really difficult to hit, but we just keep going, and you know that you have to do it. And thankfully, we get to smile the whole way, even if it's a few sleepless nights here and there. Okay, me personally, I am a huge sci-fi fan, and definitely has me intrigued. I love the idea that these machines are going to keep us alive, even if it kills us. It's such a bizarre concept. I feel like it has some real potential. I also think of that nice blast of AC when you come into the house and start with the cryo freezing process. I'm pretty hyped about this one. Next up on June 26th, yet another article announcement, but this time from Nerdist. Surprisingly, another sci-fi horror announcement called Invasion: Alien Abduction. Nerdist spoke with Charles Gray, the senior show director of entertainment creative development. The concept is simple enough. Guests witness a terrifying encounter with an aggressive, unseen alien craft that has abducted a family and its livestock from a remote homestead, and they are now plotting to tear everyone apart. These aren't your campy comedy aliens. Oh no, true horror is coming to Halloween Horror Nights in the form of Invasion: Alien Abduction. And that's complete with tentacles, claws, home invasion, claustrophobia, a vibrating floor, and an incredible amount of delicious chaos. Nerdist asked, feels like it's been some time since we saw an original Halloween Horror Nights take on aliens. What made it the right time to bring aliens back to your original houses? Charles Gray responds, we'd actually been talking about this for, the last 5 years. And every time we got together as a group, because we normally do, it's a bunch of us get together in a room and kind of toss ideas around for what's best for the which year. They've never quite made it to the forefront. The reason being is when you do the little gray men or the aliens, it can quickly get humorous. It can quickly get kitsch and cheesy. And we've done that type of house before, or Scare Zone too. But Invasion: Alien Abduction, we really wanted to tell a story of the horrific moment at night when they are coming to take you. And that's frightening. We had talked about it, and finally I think we came up with a story that really encapsulates that almost home invasion type of horror and feel. They have this technology and kind of layering out what the aggressors are. So yes, we have the little gray men, but also there's different types of little gray men. As you go through the house, you won't see the same character over and over again. We have a diverse group of aliens coming at you. And then we also had the issue of how do you create a giant 2 football field sized alien craft? So what we decided to do is really use lights to become the character. And then also what is coming out of the ships is an important question. So we have these big giant tentacles, and then out of those big giant tentacles come these little organic claws that can puncture you, pull you into the ship. So it's really gory, really violent, and just put that aesthetic on everything. And it really changed our story, and we got very excited about it. And just one little nugget of difference too. It's always like some Midwestern place in these stories. We're like, what if it takes place in the Southwest? So it's got a little bit of that kind of turquoise and cactusy flavor to it. That's the area where I kind of grew up. So I was like, okay, let's do that. Charles Gray went on. Something interesting we've done in the past on anniversary years, because this will be an anniversary year for us, we always incorporate a lot of stories into past. But if you'll notice in our history, there's usually one or two foundational news stories we're telling during an anniversary year. And Invasion Alien Abduction is one of those foundational stories. We didn't want to tie it to anything because most of the event is tied to a something or another tale or prequel or things like that. So we really wanted this to be the first chapter. And so we're really excited about that. And then we'll see what happens after this. Well, between the two iconic aggressors we have of Jack and Oddfellow, they represent chaos and control, but are the two sides of the same coin, really. And this one most definitely leans toward the chaos. It's super chaotic. We just did an audio walk last week, and there's this stuff all over the place, and it's very particular audio that draws your attention one way, but then something chaotic's happening over here. So we're drawing your attention over here. It really ping pongs you through the experience, and people are getting pulled up into the spaceship left and right. So it's going to be awesome. Nerdist had asked, what was the creature creation like for Invasion Alien Abduction? And Charles Gray's response, well, what we wanted to do is tap into people's expectations, think about what they expect to see. And in a lot of stories, you always see the silhouette outline of that little gray man. So we took that, but then what's inside the outline is not what you expect. We get claws, teeth, just very horrific. So if you see it backlit, you'll be like, oh, this is what I expect to see. I've seen this before. And then once you get closer, it gets really horrific, especially when they're right on top of you. When we were talking about how we create this and what's the story we'll want to tell, are these aliens sinister? We thought that's the scariest thing would be that they just don't care. They're grabbing animals, people. It's almost like the little kid with the magnifying glass kind of thing. It's like they don't see us as they're not here to terrorize us. They're there to take us, and they don't care what wall they puncture through, what kind of animal it is. They just want to do their experiments or whatever, but that's what makes this so violent, is these big tentacles just breaching through walls and grabbing whatever their heat-seeking devices see. So goats, cows, people, it doesn't matter. They're just grabbing them all. Nerdist did go on to ask if they could tease any unexpected sensations we might encounter in the house, like scents or textures or temperatures. And Charles said, one thing I can share is we found a way to use vibration in floors. So it's a little bit, we're trying to work with what you're feeling below you. A lot of times with subwoofers or anything low tone, you feel how it kind of hits you in the chest. But a lot of times it just gets eaten up by the people and the scenic parts and things like that. So we're trying to incorporate it into the floor itself. So that way you feel the ship and the power of the scanning lights just really shaking the house apart, which is actually part of the story as you go through scene by scene. You'll see more and more destruction. When asked directly, do you think Invasion Alien Abduction will be one of the scarier houses at the park during this year's Horror Nights? Charles said, yes, I do, because of the unexpected amount of gore and violence and also the tightness and levels of attack. I think we've done a good job of keeping things confined and feeling very close to you, which works to our advantage. We also did some video shoots, and we created a unique way for these aliens to move too. So they're shuffling and moving in their own way, which is something that was fun to work with the performance on. And it looks really creepy when they're moving towards you. For longtime fans, I would say this has the flavor of old HHN. It really does. This is most definitely kind of a love letter for those who've been here for coming back for a long time. And also the guy or the lady who's coming in and bringing their kid for the first time. I would say this is most definitely for that fan to be like, hey, this reminds me of when I first came to the park, and let me share this experience with you. For somebody new, I think the facade and the tone just before you get into the house itself will be quite the adventure. You'll be able to feel and hear the story before you get into the house, and I think will be something new fans of Halloween Horror Nights could really appreciate, that storytelling before you even encounter the first scare. It is rare to have one sci-fi house in a year, let alone two. In fact, I don't ever remember having two since I've been going, which was 2008. I think this has a lot of potential, and Charles really seems motivated, so I'm all in on this one as well. But if getting all the original houses wasn't enough, we even got yet another of the IPs announced on June 30th. Halloween Horror Nights tempts guests to step beyond the threshold of pain and pleasure with the all-new haunted houses inspired by the first 3 Hellraiser films that forever changed the genre. This terrifying new experience will transport fans into the twisted world first brought to life by Clive Barker, where desire, suffering, and the unknown collide beginning Friday, August 28th at Universal Orlando Resort and Thursday, September 3rd at Universal Studios Hollywood. Since its debut in 1987, Hellraiser has become one of horror's most influential franchises, introducing audiences to the chilling mythology of the Lambent configuration puzzle box. When solved, opens a portal to another dimension inhabited by the ritualistically torturous beings, the Cenobites, and their leader, the iconic Pinhead. Known for blending psychological horror with graphic imagery and philosophical themes of pain and desire, Hellraiser helped redefine supernatural horror and cemented its place as a cult classic that continues to inspire filmmakers and haunt audiences worldwide. Now, for the first time at Halloween Horror Nights, guests will experience this nightmare personally in haunted houses on both coasts that draw from the first 3 films, Hellraiser Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, and Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. Additionally, legendary Pinhead actor Doug Bradley will reprise his character and lend his voice to both haunted houses in Hollywood and Orlando. The terrifying experience begins as guests enter the iconic Lambent configuration puzzle box, unwittingly summoning the Cenobites and opening a gateway to a diabolical dimension where unspeakable horrors await. From the shadowy attic in Frank Cotton's family home where he was first cast to hell, to the disturbing Channard Institute where the legendary box lures guests with its promise of forbidden pleasures, fans will encounter haunting moments and settings from the Hellraiser franchise at every turn. Their unnerving journey ultimately lands them in the labyrinth, where Pinhead and the Cenobites lie in wait for the new souls to torment for eternity. Since this is based on the first 3 films and not necessarily a reenactment, I can't help to think they're going to knock this out of the park. Just my opinion, but the concept behind Hellraisers is more interesting than any one story or movie they have. Just so much potential here, I have to think they will take a big swing here and hopefully hit. We also got a new speculation map from Horror Nights Nightmares after the announcements, so not really any new surprises here. In fact, the map has been pretty spot on the entire time, which honestly makes me a little bit sad. Years past, there were some highs and lows with what popped onto or off the map, but I guess as time goes by, we have so much more information at our disposal, and each year those rumors are going to be more spot on. In fact, we've got 2 left, and if they're correct, maybe this week we might get 2 last announcements, and we are expecting Evil Dead Burns and hopefully Ozzy. We're going to have to wait and see. While the answer could have been more clear, I feel like we got enough confirmation as to how Stay and Scream is going to work after the Dip podcast asked Universal Orlando directly about how it will work on Twitter. James B. asked, "Stupid question time. Does this mean APs get 3 houses from 2 p.m. as well, or do they also have to buy this additional ticket?" The official Universal Orlando did respond, and I think this puts it all to rest. The response from the official Universal Orlando Twitter account was, "Hello. To enjoy Stay and Scream this year, guests must have both daytime admission to the Universal Studios Florida and Halloween Horror Nights admission for the same date. Guests with valid annual passes and Halloween Horror Nights admission will also be able to enjoy Stay and Scream." And that sounds to me like it works just like it did years past, with the new caveat that it starts really early at 2 p.m. If that wasn't enough evidence, it looks like they went on and the same person asked in a DM and the response came back as follows. "Hello, Josh. Sean here. In order to enjoy Stay and Scream this year, guests must have both a daytime admission to Universal Studios Florida and Halloween Horror Nights admission for the same date. Halloween Horror Nights ticket holders who purchase the Scream Early add-on ticket, which gives them admission to Universal Studios Florida beginning at 2 p.m. on the same day, will also enjoy Stay and Scream access. All eligible Stay and Scream guests must pick up a wristband in the park on the day of their visit which will allow them to experience select haunted houses as early as 2 p.m. They will also be able to remain inside the park and get early access to queues for other haunted houses prior to Halloween Horror Nights officially beginning that evening. Eligible Universal Studios Florida admission includes valid single-day or multi-day theme park tickets and annual and seasonal passes. Now that sure sounds like it works just like it always did. So I'm not sure if I will take advantage of this on opening weekend or not, but I think on my return visit where I'm trying to get as much HHN in as possible, I just might. Well, that was a lot of news and we did it. So we have a little bit more to look forward to. So that's going to do it for this episode of the UOFanatic podcast. So let me ask you, which house are you most excited to see for yourself? I would love to know. Please comment on Twitter to UOFanaticPod or leave a comment to UOFanatic on YouTube. While we are on the topic, please like and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. I would also really appreciate it if you spread the word about the show or share an episode on social media. I really would appreciate your support. Speaking of support, if you would like to support the show, please consider allowing me to assist you and book your Universal vacations. I am an authorized Universal Orlando Resort specialist with decades of experience at touring the Universal Orlando Resort. Remember, my service costs nothing to you. Absolutely free. I am paid for by Universal Destinations. Find out more at UOFanatic.com, where you can fill out a short form letting me know how to get in touch with you about your Universal Orlando vacation. Just look for the free quote button. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
Guess that wraps things up. You guys did all right.